welcome to another of the Zoom episodes of the EDS Engineering Chat takeovers. We're doing a series of these, very exciting for the Engineering Design Show taking place 10th and 11th of October. Very proud to be sponsored by Oriental Motor UK, and they've made it possible for us to actually talk to some speakers this year before the show, which is great, because we want to get everyone along to the exhibition, but we also want to know what's going on in advance. You know, it's not always possible to do that. My next guest is Mark Rushton, and he is I hope I'm saying this correctly, Mark. aPriori, is that right?
aPriori.
aPriori, Senior Product Marketing Manager. You've got an engineering design background. You've been involved with product development, namely 3D CAD and 3D printing for over 17 years. It's my favorite number, 17, in several capacities, from research through to consulting for the likes of Rolls Royce, GE, JCB, and Dyson. Wow. And you sound like quite a fun chap as well, because when you're not playing around with 3D printers, you're quite active, aren't you? Softball, snowboarding, wakeboarding, hiking, mountain bike. Wow. Okay. So you must be getting a lot of inspiration, Mark Rushton, when you're out there in the great outdoors. Yeah. Hello to you. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Do you know what time and slot you've got? Yeah. Have you got your time and slot?
I am on the 11th.
You're on the 11th.
I think it's 1:15.
Great.
Time.
And you're going to be talking about balancing carbon and cost, aren't you?
Right.
So,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, for that, tell people a bit about your background and where you're from and what you've been doing, and then we can get into that sort of the speaking session itself.
Sure. So I started my career as a product designer, as a design engineer. So EDS is my spiritual home, I guess. But I found that I was more interested in the software than what I was actually designing, and I wanted to get more involved in that. And so I kind of transitioned to be more on the supporting design engineers with software, and worked with the likes of SolidWorks and Siemens NX for a number of years in a kind of pre-sales capacity, technical manager kind of a role. And worked at Siemens, and then moved to Boston in the US, where I was product management director for SolidWorks. So kind of progressed more into influencing what goes into the software, so I could help more design engineers, and then moved about 18 months ago to aPriori, where we take a 3D CAD model, so still supporting product development and design engineers. We'll take a CAD model and analyze it in a couple of seconds and basically work out how much it should cost to manufacture. Yeah. So we help with design engineers to reduce cost and make sure that it's manufacturable, but we also help procurement and cost engineers, so they can have fact-based negotiations around, if they receive a quote and it's higher, we can help facilitate the negotiations with the outputs of our software.
Because it is, when you're going to be doing your session, it's the importance of sustainable design, because just having been in this sector myself for, I know it's hard to believe, Mark, but 25 years.
Oh, wow.
CAD itself is just, it's a whole different dimension now, isn't it, than where we were 25 years ago? Let's put it that way. I mean, you would hope it would be so, but it's really, really vitally, crucially helpful in a lot of areas now with what we're moving towards, and what engineers are talking about and what they will be talking about at the show. I would argue.
Yeah, very much so. 3D CAD used to be the preserves of the really high-end companies, the Boeings, the Rolls Royces of the world, but now it's a lot more accessible. People can afford their own 3D CAD, just to work on hobby tools, and with the likes of cloud CAD like Onshape and things like that. Being able to just work from a web browser on any device, it's a lot more accessible, and the cloud's made a huge difference. And I think COVID actually accelerated some of that even further. So
I truly believe that. I think that really did. I think it really has accelerated it. And so the importance of sustainable design. Why, in your opinion, you can't tell us everything because you're going to save it for the 11th. So you can't give me all your goodies as much as I know you want to, Mark. You can talk to me about softball. I'm interested to hear about that, but I don't know if our audience are coming to the engineering show to hear about softball. Why is it so important that we have sustainable design, in your opinion?
So I think that this year, in fact, with all the crazy weather and flooding and forest fires, wildfires, things like that, I think more than ever, it's apparent that we need to do something about climate change. I don't think it's up for debate anymore that it's caused by humans. And even if it's not, I think we should still try to do something about it anyway. But yeah, I think it's crucial. We're currently using up the Earth's resources almost twice as quickly as they can replenish them naturally. We're using up something like 1.75 Earth's worth of resources a year. So that's obviously an issue. So circularity and recycling and remanufacturing things is important. But really, when it comes to climate change, it's all about the carbon emissions and carbon equivalent emissions, so greenhouse gases. And designers have got a lot on their plate anyway. They've got to make sure the design does the job that they're designing the product to do.
Yeah.
So they need to make sure it's strong enough, light enough, all these things, thermal conductive enough, all those kind of things, or aerodynamic enough. But they've got to sell the product at the end of the day. So cost is quite important, how much it's going to cost to manufacture, to make sure that they're profitable. And now with regulations that are coming in, how much greenhouse gases are emitted from the design and manufacture of the materials and the parts themselves is another thing that's eventually going to be thrown at designers. And I think the ones that are leading the way are already considering this now. So a lot of our customers are already looking at the environmental impact that the materials and the manufacturing processes that go into their products is having.
I'm really excited about this year's show. Personally, for a lot, 3 years we've been talking to guests like yourself and attendees of the show and exhibitors, and having done other shows like Subcon and other areas of the industries, it was so different, the conversations this year to last year. So it's going to be you've got some panel sessions, haven't you? And I imagine that's going to be very thought-provoking and bring up some stuff that's really interesting to hear different opinions on. And because it is really, people don't, when I'm sitting there talking to people and having really intense conversations with people like yourself, I realize the enormity of what's going on. And not everyone seems to realize that, do they? And that's why these exhibitions are so important, like EDS, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues that the people are kind of facing, whether it's inflation, making sure that they're still profitable, climate change and regulations to try and mitigate the effects of climate change, artificial intelligence as well, like how is that going to change people's roles? It's going to affect everybody at some point, and to what extent. And I think educating yourself in terms of how these new technologies are going to affect things, if you just kind of carry on and ignore them all, you're just going to get left behind. You're not going to be able to stay competitive at the end of the day. So I think, it's shows like this where you can go and listen to different experts on different topics. I think it's useful, and just seeing what other products are out there in terms of the exhibitors. I think engineers, manufacturers need to stay on top of what's going on. So we find so many people are too busy being busy.
Yeah.
So many solutions out there that will make their lives easier and more productive. So it's definitely worth a visit.
It is, and it is that, but also that is so true. And I think what's happened with exhibitions, certainly, after the pandemic, what's happened is people go, to be productive. There's no more. I mean, it's great. Everyone sees each other. But, you know, back 20 years ago, there was a bit of the old, oh, hi, you know, we're at a show and it was, you know, it's great, you know, whatever. Now it's much more, let's get down to business. This is serious, guys. We need to be productive here, as has become the world in general, I would say. You know, it's, time is precious, you know. It's obviously why you've got so many hobbies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, you know what's going on in the world, and you're making the most of the outdoors. I would say that's because you have a bird's eye view of what's going on, you know, that others don't. So it's fantastic to come to these exhibitions and see people being productive and also collaborating so much, working together. I think that's happening more now. Would you say? Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think collaboration's been put in the spotlight because we're not all in the same office anymore. So, you know, the facilitating that and, you know, having a day out of the office at a show is really good just to see what other industries are doing. I think a lot of inspiration comes from just education and seeing what's going on elsewhere. I think that you know, like if you look at Dyson, for example, their technology is all based on industrial technology elsewhere, and it was put into something for use in the home, essentially.
Listen, my hair would not exist without my Dyson hairdryer.
I think your hair would still exist.
Honestly, well, I mean, it's all my own, but no, I mean, seriously, my Dyson hairdryer is my most precious ornament.
I mean, I can't relate to that myself.
I wasn't going to say Mark, but you know, I bet you got a few good bobble hats when you go snowboarding, though.
Oh yeah.
But I think everyone should come along and listen to you on the 11th. It's fantastic what you're doing. You're helping people, you're helping the environment, and you're helping people be more productive and, like you say, cost efficient and sustainable, which is all round good egg, in my opinion. So I look forward to meeting you on the 11th, because we will be there. I will be there in the flesh. And but fantastic work that you're doing, and long may it continue. And yeah, thanks for sort of helping look after our planet, because I think it's an important message that people need to pay some attention to. So it's been great to talk to you, Mark. Is there anything else you want to share with us before you go, other than coming to see you in person, obviously, on the day?
No, I think I think manufacturers owe it to the planet to do something about their carbon footprint and the embodied carbon that goes into their products. I think manufacturing is responsible for 20% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. So if you want to know how to look at reducing it without reducing your profit margin, then come and listen to me on the 11th.
Wow. I mean, I think you need to be sitting in this seat. That was a good roundup. I like that. It was a good roundup. Well done, Mark Rushton. I'm looking forward to talking to you. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Oriental Motor UK, for supporting this series so that we can get these out, because it's really nice to be able to get some of you speakers out there to the audience, to the EDS audience, and all of our audiences, you know, cross-pollinating all of them organically before the show, because we want as many people to come along and learn and be productive as possible, don't we? So thank you for giving us the time today to chat.
Thanks,
and it'd be great to meet you in person on the 11th.
See you there.
11th of October, Engineering Design Show. See you there.